The day my ex-fiancé left me for a 21-year-old girl he met on TikTok, he had one request. Can you send me updates about Rosie? Rosie. Our dog. The one we raised together for 4 years. And I smiled. I told him, of course. He thought I meant cute pictures. He had no idea what was coming. If you've ever been cheated on, lied to, or replaced like you were nothing, this story is for you. Make sure you like and subscribe, because sometimes the best revenge isn't loud, it's consistent. And trust me, this one is consistent. 7 years. 7 years is a long time to build a life with someone. When I met him, I was 18. Fresh out of high school. Awkward, hopeful, convinced that love was something permanent if you just worked hard enough at it. He was 20. Confident. Funny. The kind of guy who made everyone feel like they were the most important person in the room. He proposed to me at 24. We had a little backyard barbecue with friends. He got down on one knee in front of everyone. I cried. Everyone clapped. My mom hugged him. My dad shook his hand. I thought that was it. I thought I had one. We moved into my house, the one my aunt left me when she passed. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. Cream-colored walls. Hardwood floors that creaked near the kitchen. A backyard just big enough for a dog. So we got Rosie. Rosie was this chaotic, floppy-eared golden mutt from a shelter 2 towns over. She had a crooked tail and one ear that never quite stood up all the way. She chose us. Climbed right into his lap and fell asleep. He looked at me and said, "Guess we're parents now." And for a long time, we were happy. Or at least, I thought we were. The first crack appeared in January. He started spending more time on his phone. That subtle shift. The screen angled away from me. The quick lock when I walked into the room. You don't notice it all at once. It's gradual. Like a draft in winter. You don't see the crack in the window, but you feel the cold. Who are you texting? I asked one night while we were watching TV. He laughed. Babe. Don't start. It's just my friend. What friend? Just someone from TikTok. She's funny. From TikTok. That should have been ridiculous enough to dismiss. But something in my stomach tightened. What's her name? Why does it matter? He said lightly. You're not jealous, are you? And there it was. The deflection. The subtle guilt flip. I dropped it that night. But I didn't stop noticing. Late night FaceTimes in the garage. Smiling at his phone like he used to smile at me. Inside jokes I wasn't part of. In March, I tried again. Are you sure nothing's going on? I asked softly. He sighed like I was exhausting him. I can't believe you don't trust me. She's just my best friend. Best friend. The words tasted metallic. 7 years together. Engaged. Living in my house. Raising a dog. And I was being insecure for questioning the girl who suddenly had more access to his attention than I did. By April, we were fighting more. About dishes. About money. About wedding planning. But underneath it all was her. The invisible third presence in every room. One night, I woke up at 2 a.m. and he wasn't in bed. I found him in the living room, whispering into his phone. When he saw me, he ended the call instantly. Who was that? He rubbed his face. You're being crazy. Crazy. That word hit harder than anything else. Crazy for noticing distance. Crazy for feeling neglected. Crazy for wanting my fiancé to act like my fiancé. By May, he said the words I'll never forget. I think we need to call off the engagement. It felt like falling through ice. Sudden. Shocking. Breath stolen. Why? My voice didn't even sound like mine. We've grown apart, he said. It's not about anyone else. I just need something different. Something different. We ended things that night. 7 years reduced to a cardboard box of his clothes and a quiet house that echoed. And here's the part that shattered whatever illusion I had left. The very same day we broke up, he posted her. A picture of them on his social media. Caption, finally with the love of my life, red heart. Love of my life. I stared at my phone until my vision blurred. He met her in person for the first time that week. Moved her 6 states away into his dad's house. 1 month. That's how long it took him to replace me publicly. I remember sitting on the kitchen floor with Rosie's head in my lap, thinking, was any of it real? Rosie kept looking at the door for days. Waiting for him. Her tail would thump whenever she heard footsteps outside. She didn't understand. Honestly, neither did I. A week after he moved her in, he texted me. Hey. Can you send me updates about Rosie? I stared at the message for a long time. He didn't ask how I was. Didn't apologize. Didn't acknowledge 7 years. Just, updates about the dog. I typed back slowly. Sure. I'll email you some photos every few months. He replied with a heart emoji. A heart emoji. And that's when something inside me shifted. Not rage. Not even sadness. Something colder. If he wanted updates, I'd give him updates. And as I watched Rosie squat in the backyard that afternoon, an idea formed. Small. Petty. Perfect. I took a picture. And for the first time since January, I smiled. He wanted updates? Oh, he was going to get them. The first picture I took wasn't artistic. There was no dramatic sunset. No perfect angle. Just Rosie in the backyard, mid-squat, looking mildly offended at the world. I stared at the photo on my phone. It was immature. Petty. Completely beneath the woman who had once color-coded wedding binders. And yet, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. I didn't send it right away. No. This wasn't about impulse. This was about patience. If he thought I was going to send him cute little Rosie at the park smiling face with hearts photos, he clearly didn't know me as well as he thought he did. That realization stung more than I expected. 7 years. And he underestimated me. The first few days after the breakup were brutal. Not in the dramatic, screaming way. It was quieter than that. It was the absence. The empty side of the bed. The toothbrush missing from the holder. The silence at dinner. Rosie kept pacing the hallway at night. She'd stop outside the bedroom door like she was listening for his footsteps. When none came, she'd curl up against my legs instead. I cried into her for more times than I'd ever admit out loud. There's a particular kind of humiliation that comes with being replaced immediately. It makes you question everything. Was I boring? Was I difficult? Was I too safe? Too predictable? I'd scroll through his social media like I was pressing on a bruise just to feel it hurt. There they were. Smiling. Laughing. Her tiny hand wrapped around his arm like she'd won something. Maybe she thought she had. My friends were furious on my behalf. He moved her into his dad's house, my roommate Jess said, pacing our kitchen. That's insane. He's almost 30. 27, I muttered. Still. They wanted me to block him. Delete him. Burn every photo. But I didn't. Because he had asked for updates. And something about that request felt symbolic. He wanted access. A thread still tied to this life. Rosie wasn't just a dog. She was our routine. Our shared responsibility. Our little family unit. And now he wanted the benefits of attachment without the accountability of commitment. No. If he wanted access, it would come at a cost. The first email I sent was 3 days later. Subject line, Rosie update number 1 paw prints. I attached the photo. No caption. Just Rosie. Mid-poop. Sunlight catching the horror in her eyes. I stared at the send button for a full 10 seconds before tapping it. Whoosh. Sent. My heart pounded like I'd committed a crime. It was ridiculous how empowering it felt. He replied an hour later. LOL? Any normal ones? I smiled slowly. Normal. Like what he did was normal. I typed back, that's what she was doing today. Then I put my phone face down. For the first time since January, I wasn't waiting for his response. The next morning, Rosie did her business near the fence. Different angle. I crouched slightly lower this time. Click. I started treating it like a project. Wide shots. Close-ups. Action sequences. Even one slow-motion video of her circling dramatically before settling into position. It became therapeutic. Because here's the thing, revenge doesn't always have to be explosive. Sometimes it's consistent. And consistency drives people insane. He stopped responding after the third email. But I knew he was opening them. I could see it. Read receipts don't lie. Each morning, I'd sip my coffee, wait for Rosie to trot into the yard, and think, what angle are we feeling today? Meanwhile, he kept posting about her. The TikTok girl. 21. Big eyelashes. The kind of smile that screams, I've never paid a utility bill. He looked different in those pictures. Almost manic. Overcompensating. I wondered if she knew about me. If she knew he'd been engaged until a month ago. Maybe he told her we were basically roommates. Maybe she believed him. Or maybe she didn't care. That part surprised me. I wasn't angry at her. Even if she had known. Because at the end of the day, he made the promises to me. He didn't want drama? I convinced myself my intuition was insecurity. But sending those emails every day was like reclaiming a tiny piece of my voice. Petty? Sure. But it was mine. One night, Jess looked at me across the living room and said, "You look different." How? Lighter. I hadn't noticed. But she was right. Because here's the truth no one tells you about betrayal. The worst part isn't losing them. It's losing the version of yourself who believed in them. And slowly, I was getting her back. Then, about a month into the daily updates, something happened. He sent a long email. Subject line, seriously? My heart thudded as I opened it. I don't know what you're trying to prove. This is childish. I was hoping we could stay on good terms for Rosie's sake. I miss her. I don't deserve this. Don't deserve this. I read that line 3 times. Didn't deserve, pictures of the dog he abandoned? I laughed out loud. For months, I'd been gaslit into believing I was unreasonable for noticing emotional cheating. And now he was the victim because he couldn't handle literal crap in his inbox? I typed slowly. You're right. You don't deserve this. Then I hit attach. A compilation. 9 photos. 3 videos. Different days. Different lighting. Different emotional energies. Subject line, Rosie monthly recap pile of poo. Send. I imagined him opening that email in his dad's house. Maybe she was sitting next to him on the couch. Maybe she asked, "What's that?" And maybe, just maybe, he had to explain. That thought carried me through the rest of the week. But revenge has a funny way of evolving. Because as satisfying as it was, something bigger was forming. Something less about him. And more about me. The daily ritual had started as a joke. Now it was becoming a turning point. Because if I could reclaim this small piece of dignity, what else could I reclaim? I didn't know it yet. But the real revenge was just beginning. And it wasn't going to stop at his inbox. At some point, the joke stopped being about poop. It sounds ridiculous to say that out loud. But it's true. The daily emails started as a way to irritate him. A small, gross inconvenience in the middle of his shiny new life. A reminder that while he was busy playing house with a 21-year-old he met on TikTok, there was still a mess he'd left behind. Literally. But somewhere between Rosie update number 12 and Rosie update number 19, I realized something. He wasn't the center of my life anymore. He was a side character in a routine I controlled. That shift? That was everything. The turning point came on a random Tuesday night. I was in the kitchen with Jess and our other roommate, Danny. Music was playing softly. We were making pasta and laughing about something stupid. Rosie was weaving between our legs, tail wagging. And I realized. I hadn't thought about him all day. Not once. No urge to check his social media. No ache in my chest. No replaying arguments in my head. Just peace. Jess noticed before I did. You didn't send today's update yet, did you? She teased. I checked the time. 9:14 p.m. Oh my God. I forgot. And that's when it hit me. For the first few weeks, sending those emails had felt urgent. Necessary. Like I needed the ritual to survive. But now? I didn't need it. I wanted it. And wanting is very different from needing. Needing is desperation. Wanting is power. I stepped outside with Rosie under the porch light. The air was cool. The grass slightly damp. She did her little circle routine, then squatted like she was clocking in for her shift. I crouched down, snapped the photo. But this time, instead of feeling angry or triumphant, I felt calm. Calculated. If he was going to accuse me of being immature, then fine. I'd show him immature. But I'd do it strategically. Up until that point, I'd been sending the emails sporadically throughout the day. Morning. Afternoon. Random times. Now? I started paying attention to his online activity. He always posted around 7 p.m. Dinner time at his dad's house. Prime couple content hour. That's when I began scheduling my emails. 7:03 p.m. sharp. Every single day. Subject lines became more creative. Rosie Digest report paw prints. Fiber intake, optimal. Daily movement log. Bowel health update number 27. I kept the tone aggressively clinical. No insults. No direct jabs. Just updates. He stopped replying entirely. But something interesting started happening online. His posting slowed down. The over-the-top captions about the love of my life faded. Pictures became less frequent. And one night, I saw something that made my stomach flip, not with pain, but with validation. A cryptic post. No one talks about how hard starting over is. Oh? Hard? Starting over? I stared at it for a long time. This was the same man who told me, it's not about anyone else. The same man who moved a girl across 6 states after meeting her once. And now starting over was hard? I didn't comment. I didn't react. I simply waited until 7:03 p.m. That evening's subject line? Adjustment period continues pile of poo. Send. But here's where the story shifts. Because while I was enjoying the slow psychological drip of inconvenience, I was also rebuilding. I started therapy. Not because I was falling apart, but because I didn't want to carry this into my future. The first session was awkward. I sat on the couch twisting a tissue in my hands while the therapist asked gentle questions. When did you first feel something was wrong? January. When did you first doubt yourself? March. When did you feel the most humiliated? The day he posted her. Saying it out loud felt like pressing on a bruise. But it also clarified something. This wasn't just about cheating. It was about erosion. For months, he chipped away at my intuition. Called me crazy. Overreacting. Insecure. And I believed him. That's the part that hurt the most. Not that he left. But that I let myself shrink to keep him comfortable. The poop emails were petty, yes. But they were also proof that I wasn't small anymore. I was allowed to be inconvenient. I was allowed to make someone uncomfortable if they had disrespected me. One afternoon, about 6 weeks into the breakup, he finally broke his silence. A text. Can we talk? I stared at the message for a full minute before responding. About? Rosie. Of course. I called him instead of texting back. He answered on the second ring. His voice sounded tired. I just think this has gone on long enough, he said. You asked for updates. I didn't mean like this. I leaned against the counter. Rosie was chewing a toy at my feet. What did you mean? Just normal pictures. How she's doing? She's doing great, I said evenly. Healthy appetite. Strong digestion. He groaned. Why are you like this? Why am I like this? For a second, the old version of me almost surfaced. The one who would soften. Apologize. Try to smooth things over. But instead, I asked calmly, why did you lie to me for months? Silence. I could almost hear him swallow. I didn't lie. You said she was just your best friend. She was. And the day we broke up, you posted her as the love of your life. Another silence. Then, it just happened fast. Fast. That word again. 7 years slow. 1 month fast. I don't owe you comfort, I said quietly. You chose this. He exhaled sharply. So this is revenge? I considered that. Was it revenge? Or was it boundaries wrapped in pettiness? If you don't want updates, I said finally, I can stop. He hesitated. Yeah. Maybe that's best. There it was. The surrender. He didn't demand. He didn't accuse. He asked. And suddenly, the power dynamic flipped completely. Because now the decision was mine. Continue. Or end it. I looked down at Rosie. She was on her back, paws in the air, completely unbothered by human drama. I realized something in that moment. The emails weren't about hurting him anymore. They were about reminding myself that I survived. And I had. I didn't need his discomfort to feel strong. I already was. But before I let it go completely, I had one more move. Not cruel. Not explosive. Just precise. Because if he wanted closure, I was going to give it to him. On my terms. That night, instead of sending the usual update, I drafted something different. A final email. Subject line, Rosie update, final report. I didn't send it yet. I stared at the cursor blinking on the screen. This wasn't about poop anymore. This was about ending it. Cleanly. And when I finally hit send, I knew it would be the last time he had access to any part of my life. The revenge had evolved. And so had I. I didn't send the final email right away. I let it sit in my drafts overnight. There's something powerful about not acting on impulse. About knowing you could press the button, but choosing the exact right moment instead. Rosie slept curled against my side that night. The house was quiet except for the hum of the ceiling fan. I stared at the dark and thought about the last 7 years. The first apartment we toured. The engagement ring he nervously picked out. The way he cried when we adopted Rosie. Were those moments fake? No. That's the complicated part. They were real. He just wasn't consistent enough to sustain them. And that wasn't my failure. That realization settled into my chest like something solid. stable. By morning, I felt calm. Clear. At exactly 7:03 p.m., I opened my laptop. Subject line, Rosie update, final report. I reread what I'd written. Hi. Rosie is doing great. She's healthy, happy, and surrounded by people who show up for her every day. She still tilts her head when she hears your name, but she doesn't wait by the door anymore. She adjusted. Dogs are good at that. I've sent you updates like you asked. You've seen how she's doing, consistent, regular, moving forward. This will be the last one. You don't need updates anymore. And I don't owe them. Take care. I didn't attach a photo. I didn't need to. The message was clear. I hovered over send for exactly 3 seconds. Then I clicked it. And just like that, it was over. No dramatic mic drop. No angry paragraphs. No insults. Just closure. He responded 20 minutes later. Okay. I get it. 3 words. No argument. No defensiveness. Just acceptance. And that was somehow more satisfying than any angry outburst could have been. Because for the first time since January, he understood something. Access to me wasn't automatic. It was a privilege. And he'd lost it. The fallout wasn't explosive. There was no public confrontation. No messy group chats. No screaming matches. It was quieter than that. But quieter doesn't mean weaker. A few days after the final email, I noticed something else. His relationship posts disappeared. Not archived. Deleted. All of them. Including the love of my life red heart one. I didn't go looking for it, a mutual friend texted me. Did you see? I hadn't. But when I checked, it was true. Gone. And about 2 weeks later, I heard through the grapevine that the TikTok girl had moved back home. Apparently, living in your boyfriend's dad's house 6 states away isn't as romantic as it sounds online. Shocking. He didn't text me about it. Didn't try to reconnect. And even if he had, it wouldn't have mattered. Because here's the thing no one prepares you for. When someone betrays you deeply enough, something fundamental shifts. It's not about anger anymore. It's about clarity. I didn't want him back. Not after seeing how easily he rewrote our history. Not after hearing "you're being crazy" one too many times. Rosie stopped pacing at night. She stopped waiting by the door. She'd run straight past it now when we got home, heading for her food bowl or her toys or her favorite sunny spot by the window. She adjusted. So did I. A month later, I was sitting in that same kitchen where I once cried on the floor. Only this time, I was laughing. We had friends over. Music playing. Someone spilled wine and we all groaned dramatically. Rosie was in the backyard with the other dogs, barking at absolutely nothing like it was her full-time job. Jess nudged me. You ever think about sending him one more? She whispered, grinning. I laughed. No, and I meant it. Because the best revenge had already happened. It wasn't the pictures. It wasn't the emails. It wasn't even the mild psychological warfare of scheduled digestive reports. It was this. I was happier. Genuinely. Not in a performative, look at me thriving social media way. But in a quiet, stable way. I started seeing someone new a few months later. Slowly. No rushing. No grand declarations. Just consistency. He met Rosie. She liked him immediately, which honestly felt like the only approval that mattered. And when he asked about my ex one evening, I told him the story. All of it. Including the poop pictures. He laughed so hard he nearly choked. Remind me never to cross you, he said. But he said it with admiration. Not dismissal. That difference? Everything. If you'd told me in January that I'd be grateful for that breakup, I would have laughed in your face, but sometimes betrayal is a forced upgrade. He didn't ruin my life. He revealed its weak spots. He showed me where I was tolerating less than I deserved, and Rosie, she's still here, still happy. Still dramatic. Still very regular. And every once in a while, when she squats in the yard, I can't help but smile. Because somewhere out there, there's a man who once thought he could keep pieces of my life without committing to it. And instead, he got exactly what he asked for. Updates, just not the kind he expected. If you've ever been underestimated, lied to, or replaced like you were disposable, remember this: closure doesn't come from them. It comes from you deciding you're done. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. And tell me, what's the pettiest revenge you've ever pulled? Because sometimes, petty is powerful.